Yep, this film was very super, man. Okay, I feel like I nailed that one. Yeah, the timing of it, I feel like I nailed it. Uh, okay, I'll just review the movie. What's up, everybody? SpecHawk here with a movie review, and today I am reviewing Superman. Uh, at the time of recording, it is Sunday. I just got back from my second viewing of the film, and yeah, like I feel like watching it two times. Yeah, it made me like ready for this review. I've been looking forward to this movie for quite some time. It's directed by James Gunn, who has made the Suicide Squad for DC, also the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. He's done a lot for both Marvel and DC, and yeah, there's also the Peacemaker show. When it comes to my love for Superman, I feel like it didn't truly start until 2023. That was the year I decided to read more comics, and a lot of that included DC. And I mainly stuck with the Trinity, Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, and some Flash comics, and I guess a little bit of Green Arrow, Black Canary. I was also watching some of the Arrowverse around that time, around 2023 as well. You know, uh, and who knows, I might need to rewatch at least the first few seasons again, because yeah, it's been pretty long, and I also need to catch up on like some of the shows I've yet to finish. When it came to reading comics, Superman, like especially different versions of his origin story, whether it's Superman Birthright or John Byrne's Man of Steel run, those types of comics made me really fall in love with the character and his lore. And just recently, I finished All Star Superman right before seeing the movie for the first time, which has been said by James Gunn to be a major inspiration for the movie. Yeah, and let me just say, I felt it. I felt the inspiration when it came to this movie, and I'll get more into that once we go further into the review. And consuming those comics as well as other Superman media, like you know uh, the first Christopher Reeve movie. And by the way, I also did a rewatch of that. Uh, you know, go to the video if you're interested. And I've also watched shows like My Adventures with Superman and Smallville. And I've yet to watch Superman and Lois. Let me know if you wanted to see a reaction series to that. Comment down below. Yeah. Consuming all this Superman stuff, it certainly made me look at a movie like Man of Steel very differently. Yeah. Before watching Superman 2025, I rewatched Man of Steel, and yeah, I mean, I can appreciate it as a movie, but as a adaptation of Superman, it is pretty mid, in my opinion. And no, this movie, I'm so glad to say that it's better than Man of Steel in every way. Not only as an adaptation of Superman that respects the source material, but it's also a pretty good movie on its own. Yeah, let me just say that this movie did not disappoint. It's similar to a lot of James Gunn's movies where the tone is silly and very cheesy and can be insane at times. Yeah, all these like sci-fi elements. When it comes to Lex's plan, like how he does things, all of that, like it fully embraces like the ridiculousness and is not supposed to be realistic. And yeah, like I mean, after all, like this is a movie about superheroes and lots of you know uh, big battles. Yeah, like yeah, it's pretty much seeing like a comic book come to life. Yeah, when it comes to performances, David Cornsweet killed it as Superman. Like his performance, I felt a sense of warmth. And the character, the way he's written, he was interesting. I cared about him. Let me just say that there isn't too much Clark Kent. A lot of this movie is mainly Superman, but uh, the two sides of like the character, that the amount of time that we do spend with them, like David Cornsweet portrayed both sides brilliantly, and really he felt like the modern version of Christopher Reeve. Yeah, and yeah, I'm so glad that we have a Superman that is acted, he's acting uh hopeful and positive. Even in this movie where like he's in a society that is so cynical and distrusting of him. He's put in a society like that, and the way the character is written. He's like he's still like resilient. Yeah, that's the one thing about Superman. He is resilient. He even when times are tough, you know, he still maintains his optimism and ideals. Yeah, and like in the past few years, we've had some evil Supermen with Homelander and Omni Man, and regarding like the main interpretation of Superman with Zack Snyder, rewatching Man of Steel, like you know, it was very different. Superman was very gritty. Um, you know, I do wish Henry Cavill was given the chance to be a more optimistic Superman. You know, um, to be honest, if you want a better version of Man of Steel, like read Superman Birthright. Yeah, that's the best way to put it. Yeah, regarding other actors, Nicholas Holt as Lex Luthor was, yeah, he was a D1 hater throughout this movie. Yeah, like he really is the best live action Lex Luthor since Michael Rosenbaum from Smallville. I love both, and yeah, Nicholas as Lex, I need more of him. No, like his performance is so like layered, and the way he was pretty much a hater, yet we uh through his performance and the way the character was written, like there's a sense of depth to him. He has a lot of envy and jealousy for Superman. Before watching the movie a second time, I read the Lex Luthor Man of Steel miniseries, um, which I heard was what Nicholas Holt read when it came to how he wanted to portray Lex Luthor, to prepare. And yeah, like he like Nicholas really brought out like a comic accurate Lex Luthor, and Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane. She was phenomenal as well, and her chemistry with David's Clark Kent, aka Superman, was really fun to watch. And regarding the character herself, she really captured the spirit of Lois Lane throughout her interactions with certain characters, as well as how she behaves and the way she takes charge, in certain situations. Yeah, it's all great. Yeah, everyone else from actors for Jimmy Olsen, as well as like the heroes that do appear, the Justice Gang, uh, you know everyone from the Daily Planet cast to the other heroes, like they all did great as well, and other supporting characters too. Now I want to talk about the villains, and I'll get to the other heroes later. The two additional antagonists of Ultraman and the Engineer, I really did enjoy. And by the way, I won't get too much like into delving into their characters because spoilers. Yeah, let me just say they were a nice addition, and they provided a lot of fun battles. The Justice Gang, from Hawk Girl to Guy Gardner to Mister Terrific. Yeah, characters I did not know too much about. I haven't really gotten to their comics yet. I did enjoy all three of them, though it's really Mister Terrific that's the most like present throughout the entire movie, and takes charge in certain situations when it comes to helping out Superman. Mister Terrific, yeah, he was easily one of the best parts of this movie, and you know, uh, like the way he the way he presents his humor. He's very you know direct and a bit stoic, serious, while also you know and like the way he delivers his lines, it really is funny. And it was nice to see such a cool dynamic with Clark. And yeah, and when it comes to Mr. Terrific, he is mostly serious when it comes to certain things. And you know eh, yeah, seeing Superman's dynamic with Mr. Terrific, I can't even imagine how he'll be with Batman once he's introduced in the DCU. And let me make this clear. Um, despite all the certain heroes and a lot of characters, this is still at its core a Superman movie. And by the way, I forgot to mention Crypto. Yeah, and he was adorable and chaotic at the same time. You know, it was nice seeing a super pet. Um, I mean, the most I've seen when it comes to that in media was the DC animated movie 3 years ago now, uh, League of Super Pets. Yeah, like we don't see live action super powered animals in comic book movies, um, and yeah, we don't see that much in live action comic book media, and yeah, I'm glad I got to see that here. But still, like you know, Superman, like he is the main character through and through. Um, you know, even with how other characters help him from some of the Justice Gang, like I mentioned earlier, as well as Metamorpho. Yeah, Metamorpho was cool in this movie as well. Um, no, all of them do not take the center stage to overshadow Superman, and that's what I was concerned about when it came to this movie, was that there was too many characters. I thought this was going to be a team up movie, and it wasn't. It, yeah, because James Gunn is known for that, whether it's the Guardians movies or Suicide Squad. Here, he's able to balance the task of having other heroes when the script needs it, while also focusing on the main character. And by the way, I want to mention that there is an opening crawl, and the way they did it to help explain this DCU, to really catch us up, both the comic fans and the general audience. I thought they did it really well. There's a certain number in there which I won't give away. You know, I thought it was a nice way to really make the opening crawl interesting and not boring, and it does a really good job of explaining the world. Because this movie is not an origin story, and it's not the start of metahumans in this universe. They've been around for quite a while, and yeah, I thought that this opening crawl was a nice way to catch everyone up so we can just move forward. And even with all these like super powered beings and metahumans, I'm so glad that this movie focused on the human parts of Superman, because I feel like watching Man of Steel, they really focused a lot on the super, and they tried to do uh something with the man parts, but for me, it kind of like was a bit underdeveloped. And by the way, I still think Man of Steel is a pretty solid movie with great action. It's just not when it comes to characters and stuff. Yeah, it's not really too like put together. This movie like corrects that. There's lots of scenes with Superman, you know especially scenes with the Kents. There's that one scene with Clark and his dad. That's one of the best parts of this movie. Throughout this movie, Clark has been tested when it comes to how like people have been treating him as Superman, as well as like some revelations, which I won't get into. I'll get into that a bit later. Um, you know, like he doubts himself, and Pa Kent is really there to uh, remind his son that his actions and his values. Yeah, like all these things, like he's like Clark has been feeling throughout this movie. Him wanting to do the right thing, even if like some people like have been like have not been supporting that, you know, and yet Clark does it anyway. Yeah, that's what makes him who he is. And yeah, like uh that I'm so glad that this movie focused on the man parts of Superman. It's all great. Now, regarding the flaws of this movie, for me, like this is a near perfect movie. You know, it ranges from 9 to 10. For some people, I feel like you know, it could be like below a 9, depending on how you feel with how the movie portrayed certain plot points and characters, or how like they did certain plot points. Isabella Merced and Nathan Fillion, like they don't have a whole lot to do compared to Eddie. Hold on, wait, Eddie Gathegi. I hope I pronounced that right. Yeah, the other two don't really have as much screen time compared to him. At the same time, I'm uh, you know very happy that like the other heroes didn't take as much of the spotlight away from Superman. Without getting into spoilers, there's all this stuff with the Kryptonian lore. I was waiting for it to be resolved uh, because it does play a huge part of the movie. I'll say that. Uh, but like, it was left like unresolved, and I feel like yeah, I'm a bit torn on it. Like at the same time, it kind of helps, Superman's arc, being that like, there's no outside influence to, help Superman be who he is. But still, I wish there was some resolution to some of the lore. No, even with all the flaws that this movie has, they weren't too big of a detractor for me. This is a movie that the world needs right now. Yeah, I watched it twice this weekend, and I'm very happy to say that I was smiling. I left with a smile on my face, and yeah, like you know, this movie, like yeah, if you want hope, like if you want a lot of hope, like just watch this movie. This movie, it could range from a 9 to a 10 for me. It kind of swings a little bit. Right now, I'm feeling a 10 because watching it both times, like in the biggest screen IMAX, it was a really enjoyable time, and it was a nice, hopeful movie that I need, you know, and that the world needs. Yeah, it's like really great. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked it, be sure to subscribe and follow me on all these other social media platforms. By the way, if you're new here, I don't just do movie reviews, I review other, well, I don't review, I react to certain movies and shows. And, if you want to watch the full versions of those, you can check out the full reactions that are uncut on my Patreon. You'll have access to an uncut version of those. It's a watch along format, so you will need your own copy of the film or episode to sync the time codes and watch along with me. It's only there if you want to support further. It's optional. And right now, it's available for both free and paid members. Alright, that's going to be it for me. Anyways, thanks for watching. Hope you have an awesome day, and I'm out for now.